we? Seven.
Live.
Perfect. 7:04 looks like.
Yeah.
So I guess we can call the meeting to order. And the good part is that it always starts with the part I don't need to reference the agenda for, so we can do a roll call. I guess we'll start to my left and just go around.
Susan Mittendorf?
Nick Ferkalo.
Brian Smith.
Pete Swain.
Josh Port.
Brian Wagner for the planning department.
Awesome. Very good. So our first order of business is to approve the minutes from the December meeting and the very quick special January meeting. So anybody have any thoughts on any of the different minutes? Anything that needs to change?
I wasn't at the December meeting, so it's not ready to comment.
Fair. Yes. Anybody with thoughts on meetings they were at?
No.
No, I'm good.
I had one little thought on the December minutes, and it's been long enough that I need also anyone who was there to check my memory. But per my notes, we were sort of talking about temporarily leaving the push to get the missing middle draft ordinance in front of the council and/or planning board, and the minutes as written said we were basically dropping that pending a meeting with the planning board, which I think was discussed as a possibility. But what I had in my notes was that we were basically holding off pending the outcome of the old Tower Hill Road stuff, because there was a lot of talk about like, you know, four and 6 unit things, like especially around the edges and such. I'm not really confident that we're ever going to be able to set up that meeting. And so between that and my memory of it and my notes, I would propose that we change that to say that we're intending to wait for the old Tower Hill Road form-based code discussions to end, and then use that as a springboard into, hey, we were already doing this around the edges of the zone. Maybe this is something we could consider in a broader part of the town than just the old Tower Hill Road. Anybody have a memory or notes that can confirm or deny that?
So what I can do is, if everybody agrees to make that change, I will go back and check it against the video, and if it's correct against the video, I can change it. If it's not, I will leave it alone.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
No, that's fair. So I guess if nobody remembers differently, maybe we could have a motion to approve, but with Brian also to check that one aspect and to change it if
I
needed.
don't even know if I was sworn in at that time. So I
Fair.
don't want to vote, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, totally valid. Yes.
I was at the meeting because I have a copy of the agenda, so
Yes.
I do remember that was the discussion, so if you want me to
Make the motion.
make a motion to approve as stated, Brian making the amendments.
Awesome.
So this is a motion just as to December?
Just to
Yes, just
December.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's all good.
Is that,
And
Nick, you are abstaining?
Yeah, I'm almost positive I was not signed in or sworn in. I'm sorry, signed in.
we're still in the technology
Yeah, I'm still
mindset.
signing into Wi-Fi.
Yes. Awesome. And it seems like we had no thoughts on January, and if that's the case, maybe we could get a motion to.
Yeah, so moved.
Awesome. A second for that? Anybody?
Second?
Awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well. Great. So it seems we are in good shape as far as the minutes. Yes. So now to correspondence and public comment. Anything for us that you've gotten?
I have nothing, no.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody corresponding with you? Okay. Well, I guess that will be a quick item C on the agenda, and we can move forward into item D, which is to adopt the schedule of the meetings and to then eventually discuss new officers. So I'm very flexible on meeting schedule. Like, as long as it's noticed in advance, which all this is, I'm totally fine with that. Does anybody have persistent troubles on the usual time, like these Thursdays, or is there, just the inertia is fine?
I'm fine with it.
Good with it.
Okay.
We have to approve it?
Yes, unfortunately, I have to send it to the Secretary of State, so
Okay.
it has
So,
to be official.
I'd make a motion to adopt the schedule as printed.
Yep, and I love this too because it's anybody who's not here right now who would be the ones who would be more likely to have a problem
Well,
with it.
that is
They
true,
can't
given
vote.
that they can't come on Thursdays normally.
Yes, but at least we're only missing one this time, and we do have a quorum. So, do we have a second for the motion?
Yeah, second.
Awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. So we have our schedule. Very, very good. So moving along then, the second bit was to discuss and take action to elect new officers. This really should have happened back in January, but we've had basically our meeting sort of got eaten by the blizzard in a roundabout sort of way in February, and in January we didn't have a quorum. So it's falling to now. I know there's going to be some temptation to be like, oh, let's see what Amy says. My personal take is we should probably do our best to come to a decision because otherwise this is going to continue to push, and we're going to be stuck in like interim land until June, and it's going to be sad. Because I know you're not going to be here at the next meeting, Peter.
Right.
So we're it's going
But
to be
after
hard.
that, it's not a problem in other meetings, but
Right. I think the only thing that I would say is I personally am very likely to not be a resident of the town after August because my lease is up at the end of August, and I, at least currently, am planning to defend my thesis in October, which would mean I don't really want to sign another year lease just for a couple of months. So my thought would be that it might be better to have somebody else take leadership roles so that I'm not sort of pulling the rug out and then we're having to reshuffle the leaders at that time. If nobody feels like they're comfortable and ready to take that step, another thing that we might try is to just stick with what we have, but be very aware that the vice chair is going to have to step up and run the meetings for the second half of the year.
But the vice chair is.
but Rich was our
Right,
vice chair.
right, exactly.
So
Which is
one way
so we're gonna have to sort all of
this
that out.
Yeah.
because we're gonna need a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. And I guess for those who aren't really aware of all of it, it's basically the chair is sort of a point person for correspondence, is going to be leading the meetings and setting agendas and those sorts of things. The vice chair is usually in any of the communications that are sent to the chair. The vice chair is also copied usually, so you're getting a little bit more of that from the horse's mouth. And also, if the chair is not able to act in any official capacity, then the vice chair will step up and do that. Including if I do need to leave the committee in August, if I were to be the chair, the vice chair would be sort of doing all that. The secretary, I know Brian's been very helpful with taking lots of notes for the meeting, minutes, etc. But really, the thought for the secretary is to do that work for taking notes during the meeting, putting together minutes, and also, we've sort of been doing collaborative, like if we have a letter to write or something, we've been sort of, people volunteer and passing it around. But I think I like the idea of the secretary at least having some role in the process. It doesn't need to be drafting it every time, but maybe it's like, you try one draft and the next time maybe you just give it a quick editing pass or something. Just things that have to do with, writing and correspondence with, town boards and stuff. It seems to make sense for that role. That doesn't need to be the iron law of the land. Those are just my thoughts. So, anybody have any aspirations to do things, or are we going to be in our typical rhythm of drawing straws to do this?
Well, I don't want to be secretary because I'm bad at that.
Fair.
I'm a good treasurer, but we don't need that.
Yes, I wish we needed that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I would be chair, but I'm happy to give that up to anybody else that's interested. So, and I would
Sure.
say this is, it might make sense for for you to continue to be chair for the time you'll be here. Whoever would then be a co-chair when if you do need to leave,
Yep.
the co-chair would then become, the vice chair would then become chair, and we could decide at that point if we wanted to select another vice chair.
Yeah, that's a possible. I would be okay with that if people aren't comfortable with it, or comfortable with taking either chair or vice chair. If somebody else would be comfortable taking vice chair, then that's also a-okay. I think honestly, in a lot of ways, that might be cleaner because my worry is always and especially now that I'm going to be pushing up towards a defense, that I am not going to be able to give it as much time as I feel like it deserves, and I guess if this is something that, it's sort of oh, I don't know how I'm going to do, but you're willing to put in the effort, I'd say go for it. Like, especially as a vice chair, like you get to sort of learn, you're going to be plugged into different things, and you probably won't have to do a whole lot of like active meeting leading and stuff. It's sort of more as like a backup. But especially for newer folks in the committee, like I know you've only been here a couple of meetings, like
Yeah.
don't feel any pressure to do anything. I just,
I
yeah.
want to get a little more familiar before. I
Yeah,
jump.
which is totally valid, totally valid.
But our vice right now is
Our vice
vacant,
vacant.
is vacant,
Yeah.
exactly.
So wouldn't it make sense for Peter to assume the role of vice?
Mhm.
Gives a good transition time.
We could totally do that, yeah, and that's fine.
Well, I think also in part because I'm not here April.
Yes.
So if I become chair now and then
Yeah,
miss
the
the first meeting
immediate
as chair,
vice. Yeah, that's
it might
true.
make more sense to go with the plan I thought about originally with you, at least staying until say July.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then transitioning at that point.
yeah, and I'm okay with that. If it's, I'm not getting a lot of enthusiasm from the rest of the table.
I was
So-
ready
Yeah, I'm
to
okay.
say I would be happy to take on a leadership role. And
Hmm.
again, secretary is not my skill set. I could
Sure.
give it a shot, but that's not something.
Yeah,
And vice chair probably would, maybe as things progress, I would be willing to look at that as a
yeah.
role I would take on.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's something we could think about too. Like even if, for example, we're not looking to jump into that right away. Like maybe it could be something like you
you
hop
go,
in, yeah,
go,
as
and I'll
as
come.
Peter hops up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be something I would be willing to do.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
It's a good plan.
Yeah, it's good we have a thought. Awesome. So the only other thing that we should talk about is we still have a couple of I don't want to be secretaries. We have any,
Gotcha.
anybody. Does anybody want to take that on? There's always like Amy's done it in the past. I think is Amy the current secretary?
I think
she is.
So we could also. I mean, she's
Let's
not here. We
encourage her
could
to
say
stay on.
if you'd like to stay. Yeah.
I don't know that we need to. I don't think we can actually say yes tonight because she isn't here. But I think
Yeah,
let's
it's-
move forward with the idea that at the next meeting we would officially approve her as
Yeah.
secretary, provided she wants to do that.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I guess does it work if we approve, say, 2 out of the 3 with this as sort of a tentative plan, or does it really need to be like a slate? Are we?
It doesn't need to be a slate. You can vote 2 out of the 3 and then
Hmm.
decide secretary at a future meeting. That's fine.
Okay, I think that's fair to do then, especially because given that we haven't had that vote yet, Amy's currently like sort of by dint of having been that already is sort of serving in that capacity. So we're basically getting that anyway, and this would give her a chance to say no if she really doesn't want to do it anymore. So yeah, I guess if everyone feels good with this, then I guess we'll just need someone to move it and someone to second that.
So I'll make a motion that Peter for vice.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any second for that
Second
motion?
that, yeah.
All right. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And as for me staying in as chair at least until through August, most likely. Do we have a motion for that as well?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. And a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Who
Well,
was the second?
we had these.
Okay.
Yeah, these two. Yeah. So. Okay, so that's good. So I'll plan to keep doing that. And again, I know you thought like until at least July. If we wanted to make August a test run or something, fine by me. If you
We
want to
can
just jump
sort
in
that out.
fresh in September, also fine by me. I think it seems like we at least have a plan, which is good. I just didn't want to be back in that situation of we hit September or August or something, and then all of a sudden once again nobody wants to do leadership positions, and all of a sudden we're left with a vacant vice chair. That would be not ideal. So good. Okay, I think we can move on then to our next section, which is new business. The South County Housing Coalition. So this is, I guess for those who don't remember or aren't aware, this has been basically quarterly meetings with representatives from Narragansett Affordable Housing Committee, also URI, and also from our committee. I was there in December last, and I went again to a meeting a couple weeks ago, so I can I'll pull up my notes now. I'll try to give you guys like the highlights from what we talked about. A couple of the things honestly are going to come up later in the agenda, so I don't know if we need to put a ton of time into it. But Narragansett, for example, they have two programs they've been talking about that that I guess I won't talk too much about now, but it's sort of a incentivizing home repair, and another one about specifically leasing to long-term, like kind of full-year locals as opposed to the more vacation rentals. So we'll talk about that more too. They also had given an update saying that they had acquired two different parcels of land. I think one was southern part of town, one was more northern, pretty close to a bus line, and their speculation was that when all is said and done, they'd be able to have 20 new units between the two parcels of land, which, given the general lack of building in this part of the state, it seems like a decent chunk. Basically the way that they had sort of framed things is that their current council seems to be pretty pro-student as opposed to the kind of more like let's cap the amount of students per unit, and also pro-housing, and is sort of more like looking to be more aggressive in making housing available, which seems promising. They have also, as with URI, as with us, we've noticed, the sort of NIMBYs coming through the woodwork to push back on some of the housing efforts. But, by and large, it seems like they've been making good progress. They also gave some statistics just about median sale price, which I thought might be interesting for you all, saying that through an average of, or I guess a sample of 178 properties, their median sale price was $932,500, which is 6.6% up from last year. And compared to South Kingstown, which was out of 243 properties, it's $694,500, which is 9.4% up year over year. So things are still flying up, as I'm sure we've all felt, but
It's not going down.
yeah, it's not great. The other thing I thought was interesting is that they said that of their rentals, 65% are owned by in-state Rhode Islanders, as opposed to there's sort of the narrative that it's a lot of out-of-state people coming in and buying up homes, and 35% is not nothing, but it's still like majority of people from in-state, and including 25% who just live in the town of Narragansett directly. So they get good information out of their rental registry, which I think is great. And I know we've been sort of slowly talking about this, rolling these out as well, but having that sort of information would be really, really cool here as well.
Love all that information.
Yeah, right. Like it can't hurt. Like,
Well, it's happening, right?
Yeah,
Gonna be
registration is up and
Yeah.
running.
Yeah.
That was great.
There was
Neighbors
a
are registering.
Actually, I think it was a February 1st deadline.
Yeah,
They
right.
extended
oh, good.
it to March.
I didn't know it was.
I saw
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah, I read
Good,
that.
good.
I'm not sure
Okay.
whether it got another extension. I know that the registrations are still continuing to roll in. Even if the March 1st deadline was not extended,
Yeah.
they're probably not going to be too aggressive on enforcement for a while
Yeah.
to try and encourage voluntary compliance.
I read an article,
But yes, we are starting to collect the exact same data that Narragansett is.
So
Awesome.
if the owners are residents versus out of state, that kind of information will be collected.
So it's a rental registration.
And I know it's based
we
on
already have
short-term, long-term.
we already have the ownership information in our
Okay.
tax records.
Right.
That's
The
right,
real
that's true.
objective is to figure out if it's being rented, if it is being rented, is it a 12-month lease?
Long-term, short-term.
Is it
Right.
a student
Yeah,
seasonal lease, or is it a short-term rental?
right, Airbnb.
Right.
Yeah, that'll be good
And I
information.
think that they are also collecting cost, rent information as well. So
Right.
there should be some monetary information on what kind of rents are being charged.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's all awesome. I didn't realize it was like the full, like the same
Yeah.
set as them. But that's awesome. I love that. I'd sort of ask, and 10 seconds later you shall receive. So very good. The other updates from that meeting from URI. So they were talking about. I don't know if you're all aware of the sort of grad village housing situation, but that's. As far as I understand it, so I thought they were just sort of getting booted out in the middle of their lease, but it turns out their leases end basically at the end of the academic year. And so when the lease ends, not in the middle of a lease term, they're just not renewing leases so that they can basically rebuild the structure. Yeah, and so on the one hand, it's really necessary. Like apparently the conditions are really bad over there, but on the other hand, there are a bunch of people who sort of were at relatively short notice having to scramble to find housing. And from what they've said, they're down to, I think it's about 30 people, or at least like 30 households that need to find a spot, which last I had heard it was closer to 60. So like they're clearly making some progress. And another thing I learned that I did not know before is that they are, at least for the summer, if needed, they can open up campus buildings for them to live to. Yeah, so like if it's like, they can only find an academic year rental, for example, they'd be able to get through the summer and then go to the academic year rental. And like obviously that's not ideal, especially if people have like families and stuff. It's a lot of moving around, but it's still better than just being kind of stuck and having to leave the town. Yeah, and like especially it's like a high percentage of international students, like a kind of a much lower, I would guess, than typical grad students for like car ownership and things like that. So it's really important, if at all possible, to be close to campus. So hopefully they're able to continue finding spots for those people.
Do you know what the time frame for the renovations are, Josh?
Yeah, I forget how long it's going to be. I think it's like on the scale of a couple. I forget if it was like mid 27 or mid 28. They said they were going to finish it by. I'd have to look that up, but I know it's at least on the order of a couple years. And yeah,
And isn't there another building?
yeah, they're doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
They're
I thought they're building more.
Yeah, so they were talking about the first building that they're going to end up having up, like they're going to take, currently like they have forced triples that are not meant to be triples. It's like 3 students living in a double, and they're going to sort of de-triple those and take some of the people from the triple and put them into the new building. But yeah, they are like per their housing master plan, they are planning to build 700 net new beds over the next I think it was 15 years or so, and at least it seemed like they were a couple hundred ahead of that based on the news I had seen about their public-private partnership like housing unit numbers from when they were first announcing that. So anyway, that's all happening, but they're also getting a lot of sort of criticism and social media misinformation about like oh, they're basically not going to actually be making a dent. They're just going to increase enrollment and whatever else. Everything I've heard from them like on many different occasions is they're not looking to increase undergrad enrollment.
Right. That's
And
the word on the street.
yeah, and they have, like they were saying, they have like a really long list of people looking to live on campus as well. Like they said it's currently at 700 people. They expect it to come down quite a lot when the Greek housing opened back up, at least from what they were saying, like in the end of the summer. But yeah, it seems like there is very clear demand, and we saw that in the housing master plan as well, for people to live on campus. So like just responding to that demand is already plenty of push to build housing on campus. Like it's not just expansionist. Let's just like have the gas expand to fill the container kind of thing. Yeah, so I don't know what else they had that's really that essential to talk about. They had an event for kicking off some of the new housing construction, et cetera. But I think that's sort of the gist of it.
Is there another meeting planned?
Yes, yeah. So there's going to be another one. I think it's on the 18th of June. So yeah, so I assume probably given the results of the last section, I will probably go to that June one, and then more than likely I guess if you have the time, you'd be going to the September one.
Going to the June one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that'd be.
I haven't been to one before.
Absolutely.
So I think that would be helpful to do. I should
have like a little transition period. Yeah, I think that's good. And I think it's often been a couple people from Narragansett too. Susan's been doing a lot of the organization for the meetings in general, and then there's exactly, and then there's Cliff. I forget his last name, but
Cliff
Thank
Tyler.
you.
who's
Yes,
on-
who's
he's on-
also been there.
Yeah, he's on the board of
Um,
Habitat. as well.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. So I think multiple representatives, a-okay. I'll let Susan know that that's like sort of a tentative plan for the next one.
For anyone that's curious, the new dorms that are going up on URI, I learned it's a completely modular build. So
Oh, interesting.
it's gonna be like factory built Legos being dropped in
Yeah, it'll
and
go up,
stacked.
so once they get
That's cool.
the
Wow.
infrastructure in place, it'll go up.
Fly right up.
Goes up so
Wow.
quick.
That's interesting.
That's awesome.
So quick.
That makes a lot of sense.
You can do that in a matter of months. Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting.
that's gonna be cool.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like speed, cost efficiency, like yeah, I think that's great.
Less disruption to the neighborhood, really, in a
Yeah.
way, in some ways.
Absolutely. And I've had my heretical takes about, build me the blockiest housing, just build it.
That'll be discussion number 3. Discussion point number 3.
Yes.
The character, the town.
The carry. Oh yes, yeah. No, we'll get into that. But anyway, I think any questions on any of that, or should we jump into like?
Is the coalition just primarily Narragansett and South Kingston, or does Westerly?
There's, I don't
any-
think there's anybody, at least like officially from Westerly
Yeah.
there. Like I don't know if anybody lives there, but yeah, it's primarily just Narragansett, South Kingstown, and then URI.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the next thing on the agenda is the Lease to Locals program, which is one of the things that Narragansett had brought up that their town council wants to go forward with. So I guess we could jump into talking about that if that works for everyone. So yeah, I think maybe I'll give a start and you can fill in any gaps from your conversations.
Yeah, so this, Councilwoman Bergner raised this at a meeting, and it wound up coming down as an assignment to me
Really?
to look into, so I was in contact with the planning director over in South Kingstown and with Cliff Tyler, and they directed me to the group that was running the Lease to Locals program. I also spoke with that woman. I supplied you with the memos, I think, that I provided to council.
Yep.
I did not leave really impressed with it as a solution based on cost.
Yeah.
I mean, Narragansett has some bond funding that the council has indicated they're willing to throw some of that bond funding at this project to see what happens. My advice to the council was wait and see how it works out in Narragansett before
Yeah.
you start throwing money into it. If it's wildly successful in Narragansett, then there, would be a reason to consider it. If it's not, you're spending a lot of money on something that may only be of a temporary benefit.
Right.
Although,
Big what if.
Kai Froelich, the woman from the program, said that they actually have seen improvement on Cape Cod with renters exiting the program because they only allow people to be in the program for a year or two. People who exit the program do tend to continue to rent to people on a year-round basis because the program has taught them about all of the extra time and money that they were putting into short-term rentals, cleaning in between every rental, dealing with people who were not taking care of the properties and whatnot. And they saw the balance sheet for what it was and were encouraged to just stick with the 12-month rentals. So, I mean, that might be a benefit, but I think without a source to fund it,
Yeah.
it's sort of a non-starter right now.
Yeah.
And the council seemed to agree with that.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear you say that actually, because that was my impression. My worry is that like it's one thing if we have data, that at least says we have this overwhelming amount of short-term rentals and we have to do something about it. But like even then, it feels like this is sort of more like I see the short-term rentals as something that can be solved through like legislation, like even outside of needing to give like carrots and sticks. And when you're looking at the other groups, it's sort of more like, okay, maybe you incentivize more 12-month rentals as opposed to the 9-month plus summer kind of rental structure. And I don't think, like from my perspective, I think we do the most good when we can build up supply with the money that we're putting in, as opposed to just sort of maybe like prioritizing community, but it's sort of like picking winners for the limited supply. Like I don't think that's something that I love. And the other thing that doesn't feel great is it feels like sort of a perpetually using affordable housing money to pay landlords, which just doesn't, it just like feels gross kind of.
Yeah, that's kind of my take. You're throwing good money at bad in a way.
Yeah.
You're gonna keep throwing it and keep throwing it, or you're gonna stop the
There were a
program.
couple of council members who obviously were aware of the optic of taking taxpayer money and paying it to landlords.
Yeah.
Because there were a couple of comments that were like, no, we don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, that just didn't seem to make sense to me. I don't know. But it seemed like a short term.
Especially when their taxes go up.
Yeah.
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 Reason why?
Yeah. No, that's fair.
But Narragansett actually has some dedicated money to it at this point, of the bond.
They've committed like $450,000 out of the bond money
Yeah.
to run this program for a couple of years and see what happens.
Yeah, well, that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, use them as a test.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so the I guess it's not on the specifically listed on the agenda, but we could probably at this point talk as well about the sort of the home repair program that they were pushing forward with in Narragansett. That one, it seemed like from what they were saying at the the meeting 2 weeks ago, it seemed like there are a lot of questions like about who's going to administer it and like what it's actually going to look like. But as far as I understand it, it seems basically like you can get money to repair a structure in exchange for renting it to like basically as an affordable unit. I don't know if it's broader than that. Like I was wondering, like, could it apply to, for example, you have something that's currently uninhabitable, like just some like, really, really rough condition structure. Like, could that be, if that adds a net new housing unit, like, in other words, is there a stipulation that it must have a deed restriction, or is it just like kind of any sort of, we'll do repairing to either increase capacity or increase specifically deed restricted capacity? But yeah, it seemed, even if it's in the case where it's just like specifically for deed restrictions, it seems a little bit like, once again, you're just paying landlords to
Do what they should be doing on their own.
yeah, ideally, or just
Interest-free loan.
yeah, and you're sort of, it's almost like you're buying deed restrictions, but like it seems like how it would shake out is the cost would probably be like a large fraction of like in other words, like let's say that the deed restriction costs a landlord, like I'm just throwing out a number, like I don't even know, maybe it's like $5,000 a year. Like if they have the amortized cost of the repair, that maybe would work out to like, $7,000 a year, or even like $3,000 a year, like somewhere in that vicinity. Like I guess it would have to be probably, a little less for them to want to really jump at, or well, I don't really know. I don't know how the balance would shake out, but like it's probably like something in the same order of magnitude. Like maybe it's above, maybe it's below, but whatever. And so it seems like you're going to end up, if you're paying for a good chunk of that repair, like even if it's like sort of a matching thing or something like that, it seems like you're going to end up probably paying for an affordable unit close to, or at least on the order of the cost of
Now,
the deed
Josh,
restriction.
correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was that
Yeah.
Narragansett was looking at that as like a revolving loan program.
Okay.
So it wasn't grant money,
Mm.
but it would be like zero interest.
Yeah, I did hear
loans.
zero interest loans.
So the property owner would have an
Oh, so it does get
obligation
paid
to
back.
repay it back
That's good. I
to the
didn't.
town.
Well,
Gotcha.
That kind of makes more sense.
That does make more sense.
Yeah, but I think the town's gonna
I see.
do the enforcement on that. Right?
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. I was trying to find my way through it from what Cliff had said, but that makes a lot more sense. So,
I
at
think if you
least
have the right bumpers on that, that would
Yeah.
mean that it would be used for, say, affordable housing. Or,
Yeah.
That, if it's a revolving interest-free or low-interest loan, that might
Yeah.
have some merit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually
Low
worth
interest
considering.
or something that
Yeah. Yeah.
just encourages people to pay back.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Maybe zero is not the way to go because you
Yeah.
might get the repeat, or somebody that just might not pay it at all.
Yeah.
You can't take advantage of it.
Yep.
So there's something with.
But I guess my other
Trying
question
to
would be, what would be
enforce
the
it.
mechanism for reviewing that work?
Yeah,
But I mean,
and this is where I think a lot of the questions were.
Yeah.
Like they still weren't quite sure. Yeah, I hadn't realized that's quite how it would work, and that makes sense. I like the idea of. I know obviously you'd need to, like, if it's interest free, it feels like, you know, it is costing money, you know, because otherwise if you just kept the money you would have interest, but it's at least more sort of like a green banky style idea
Yeah,
where
yeah.
it's like, you know, you take money out, you do something valuable, and then you pay it back in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that feels a little better. I think the only thing I'd be curious about is like when the dust settles for all of this, like what is approximately the amount that you have to pay in order to get like each deed restricted unit? And I have no idea. Like I think there's a lot that remains sort of uncertain about that. And even if people really know, like for example, administratively how much it would cost to do, like you know, if you have, for example, a global economy where the supply of, you know, certain resource needed to build houses gets constrained, all of a sudden it's like, okay, now it's substantially more expensive per unit in order to repair it, and presumably that would make the cost like per deed restricted unit higher. And so it seems like it might be a little hard to know off the top of right off the bat. So it could be another thing that's interesting to see how it goes for them.
Oh, you mean you're concerned about that pool of money being used up very quickly?
Yeah, like it's basic. I'm just getting back to bang for buck, right? Like with all this, because we have a small amount of money, so it's like do the most good you can with it. And so, like, I guess it's still hard to quantify any of this. Like even, for example, like the amount of money put towards initial expenses for some of the design work done at the abandoned school properties, like something like that. It's really hard. Like, did that increase the odds of that going through by 5%, by 10%? Like, how many units are you getting? It's really hard to sort of, you know, probability that out and figure out like what is the approximate cost per unit we're paying here. But like the general, like if we had perfect information and we were all just, you know, geniuses, like I guess the exercise is spending the money like that. Is that going to give you better bang for buck versus, for example, land acquisition versus, for example, something like this where you're paying to, you know, rehabilitate housing? And I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. I do like that Narragansett's trying it though, because at least I would guess that probably in terms of repair costs, it's probably pretty apples to apples, like there versus here. Like maybe a little different, but it feels like it should be pretty similar. So, so hopefully we can at least get some sort of a sense for how that works, and I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, credit for Narragansett for at least considering some interesting
Yeah.
programs. But
No, for sure. And like, did you get any more specific detail about that one, or did you talk more about the lease to locals when you were reaching out to them?
I did speak to the planning director about that program, and you mentioned it. One of the big questions is who exactly in the town
Yeah.
is going to be tasked with
yeah,
running.
Yeah.
I can see Brian out there trying to knock on doors saying,
Yeah.
how's the repair going?
How do you manage it?
So I mean, I've been involved in something similar in terms of the community development block grant home repair monies, and it is a considerable amount of work. You gotta make sure that people are getting bids on the work, that the bids are coming from qualified contractors, that the contractors are actually performing the work that they said they would perform, that it's finished in a way that resolves the problems that they were hired to fix. And, you know, add on to that, you have, at least for CDBG, you have to verify the income of the homeowners who are participating in the program. So it's not a small amount of work to make sure that it gets done correctly.
Yeah.
I never fully ran the CDBG program here. It was being closed down as I started in 2020 with Washington County Community Development going out of business. But I saw enough files where the people from Washington County had been chasing contractors. It's not a small lift, and
Yeah.
with town staffs being pretty much stretched as far as they can go, it's a lot of work for somebody to take on.
Yeah.
It's a full-time job for
Yeah.
2 or 3 people.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
Or maybe not 3, but
that might be a rationale to actually charge
Yeah.
a small amount of interest on it to help pay for
Something.
the administrative
Yeah, yeah.
component.
might just help
Still
people.
a lot.
Help people
Yeah.
I don't know, understand that like, look, there is some enforcement with
Right,
where
right,
the
right.
money's going,
Right.
or they might be like, okay, like I'm a little bit more okay with this.
Mm.
Yeah.
With the with the public, because they're also not super happy about it in general, right? Like
Totally.
like,
Totally.
So
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll get some returns from this anyway. one way or the other, we'll see see how it goes. See if they're able to implement this, and
Yep.
I don't know if we'll ever end up getting like large, like bonds or more dedicated chunks of money for things like this, but it's still good to know, like have sort of a internal tier list of, what are our options if we have a certain amount of money to spend.
Yep. And it's our immediate neighbor, so it should be and with some of the
Yes.
same issues, so it
Yes,
should
yes.
be comparable.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yep.
And there is something good about these programs in that you can, it's sort of like a more proactive thing. Like we're saying, like they're sort of putting it out there and saying, take advantage of our program, as opposed to, think like if you're spending money to get projects that are really, really thin margins, like over the finish line, for example, like with like abandoned school property work, then it's a little bit less sure when those are going to come through and like what the quality is going to be. Like it could be like next year we have another project that's like absolutely like banger of a project. Just give it a little bit of money so that it can survive the initial, review process and everything, and then it's going to pay huge dividends. Or it could be like we're waiting several years and something like that just doesn't come up again because it's such a perfect parcel of land and it's just rare to have opportunities like that. So it's at least something where if we find that opportunities like that are really rare, like to sort of really catalyze something huge, then it's still something you can do in the meantime. And
Yeah.
so like even if we calculate that maybe it's slightly less efficient, it's like, well, it's slightly less efficient, but we're doing it now, and that pays some,
It's
there's
an
going to be
action.
there's going to be some benefit to that as opposed to potentially nothing. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Any more thoughts, or shall we start talking about character?
Let's go to character.
Let's go to character. I had some thoughts on it. I don't want to eat all the oxygen. I'll jump in at the end. If anybody's thoughts about town character, by all means.
Well, this is what initially struck me was, as a starting point, this town is 400 years old, and
Yeah.
so character, quote unquote, evolves over 400 years. It's not like this was cut whole. Some
Yes.
towns in the Midwest were kind of cut whole cloth. An industry moves in and bang, you have a town there, and it kind of has a feel and character. And then beyond that, this is actually what, 5 or 6 different hamlets, each of which developed in their own sort of unique way that got melded into the town of South Kingston over time. And so I think any effort to sort of define town character has to start from the premise that it looks very different in many different places in town. So if you think about the block granite house, buildings that the library, the school, that Hazard built, that's one part of our character, but it's very local. And if you think about, what is the character of Teft Hill, a development built in the 70s, 80s, I don't know when Teft Hill was built. That looks much different than the original single center chimney colonial buildings that you still see some places in town. And so I think it really really becomes a matter of saying, if someone brings up that this is gonna impact the character of our town, it has to be in relationship, in my mind, to that small area around them that has a certain look and feel.
And I say it's a personal thing because the people that have been here a very long time look at the character, in my opinion, differently than people that may be just moving in and not have the history. And I say it's all of that as far as the age of the town, but it's the university,
Right.
the ocean.
Right, it's
you
all
know what I mean?
different,
It
it's
is
very different.
Depending on,
Yep.
again, I think the people that would stand up and speak to, well, if we put that huge development in, it's going to change the character. It's personal to them because
Yeah.
they're looking at maybe the I liked it, like Main Street. I think Main Street speaks to the character of the town.
Yeah, but that's a different, so when you're looking to do development on Main Street, so if, for instance, the old Tower Hill project
Tower
gets
Hill.
extended,
Yeah.
it would be, I think, very beneficial to the town to sort of look at building buildings there that fit the character of a continuation of Main Street.
Yes.
I'm not asking them to build hazard-style buildings there. That's appropriate to where that center of that part of town is. But that extension could really, I think, so I moved here in 2000 and I'm driving down south on Route 1 and I see a sign that says Historic Wakefield. And I pull off Historic Wakefield and I drive half a mile down a strip. This is not very historic.
Doesn't look historic to me.
No,
You don't
no.
get to historic Wakefield, in my
Right.
opinion, until you get much further.
Right,
down.
Right.
but Old Tower Hill Road project could be an opportunity to extend to that. And I think to me, that would be where the discussion of character would be helpful. And so, as we're building a housing development on what might have been farmland that had probably an 1850s farmhouse on it.
1700, my mother-in-law's
Yeah,
house
yeah,
was,
yeah. So let's look at building houses in that specific development that at least hint at whatever the main building, whenever that farmhouse was built or that colonial single chimney center fireplace building was built, and try to at least pay homage to
It's
those
like
things.
respect,
Yeah,
respect
it
the
is.
history,
Yeah.
but yet, we want to attract, we always talk about the fact that the people that graduate from university leave because of all the different reasons we're here. They can't afford to live here. It's there's that, I think, is a big part of keeping, and I do believe it's different things to different people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're really a town of villages,
Yeah,
right? I mean, Kingston is
Yes.
different
That's
than
correct.
Peacedale.
yeah.
It's very
And
different.
they're right next door, it's
Yes.
basically.
Well, yeah, even
And-
Wakefield and Peacedale.
Yeah, and
So-
West Kingston.
Yes.
The bank, Berkshire Bank, which has been sold and is now
Oh.
empty. So these are some ideas,
Where the
Ooh.
bank goes in.
where we would like to head with architecture. And this is another idea for the post office. I don't think it's ever going to be vacated, but an idea about what you could do there.
Right.
So I just thought I'd
Yep,
let
yep.
you pass it around.
Well, I think that is, you're really trying to take something that looks a little bit like some of the other buildings around it, or some of the other buildings in the neighborhood in some of these cases, and saying, let's try to do something that matches that.
So, we're trying to create some architectural guidelines that are guidelines.
Yeah.
We need buildings to have certain elements in order for that to have nice architecture without saying, you have to build this.
Yep.
Because we don't want it to look like cookie cutter development either. We want to leave some room for people to express their own design ideas at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. And there are some areas where you can afford to be where it would be acceptable, I don't know if that's the right word, where it would be logical to have modern designs, for instance. You could have some developments that would have much more modern designs in the right locations, and I think that's fine. And I think, the old South Road School, there is an opportunity there to really try to build some buildings that look like the buildings around it. But I have to say, when they had the discussion at the planning meeting about the development out at the NORPAC.
Yeah.
And I,
One of those.
yeah, and I've looked at that a couple of times because I've been biking up Liberty Lane and Fairgrounds Road, and the character. I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to ask that group what they meant by
Yeah.
the character of that neighborhood, because to me, the character is
Or has been.
industrial.
Yeah,
Has been
industrial.
industrial.
And the few houses that are to the sort of north are 1970s nondescript, sort of
Yeah.
not particularly interesting houses. Yeah, and so it's a long ways before you get. I mean, there is that funny stone building on Liberty Lane about half a mile down south. I don't know what that That's a funny looking building. It's cool, but that's a one-off thing that's way far away. So, I mean, to me, that's a case of saying, what do you mean by character? When you talk about the character, you're really talking about your local community, neighborhood. What do you mean by that, and what's appropriate for that? And I think having a variety of architectural plans like these that you could say, well, we would encourage you to do this because this is what the buildings around you looks like. That to me, something like this is smart. Is to have some representative plans that can be inspirational and guiding. I don't know. So
And it comes up when the town is trying to make investments in infrastructure, and there's a lot of money that needs to be spent down on the waterfront, like in Matunic.
Mhm.
But for the people who live in West Kingston, it's like, why am I paying for that?
Mhm.
The point is that their character in West Kingston is a little different than it is in Matunic.
yeah,
Mhm.
just a little.
Yes.
But I would encourage people in West Matunic to look at sort of the traditional salt box type design that you see so much on, with shingles that you see on the beach. You can build larger, but still maintain, if you want to build a big house, but still maintain some of those elements. But if you want to maintain that sort of beach character. But thoughts? I don't know.
Yeah.
You said you had, or I don't know, the other people.
Yeah.
I always think of character as like, I was a psychology major, so as like a psychological grasp. Basically like home. People think of home as like, they don't want their home to change because they're comfortable with it. So it's kind of like you said, I mean, all those points they all obviously kind of work. And it's really just trying to keep the picture of home around them without changing it completely, right?
Yeah.
You feel out of place if your home changes into a strip mall, like totally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So trying to keep the architecture the same is huge, I think. I'm just trying to implement it in a way that people still think the town is the same and it hasn't changed. You know what I mean? It's there, it's new, but I didn't even know it went up, type of thing.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Cool.
just how I think of home and character. So
Nice. Yeah, I was sort of so something sort of was striking me because shortly before we you had brought that up on the email, Brian, which I thought this was a really good exercise. But shortly before that, I had been at that planning board meeting at the end of January, and one of the maybe the oldest member of the board, if not one of, was basically ruminating on how it's really necessary to have some level of change in a town in order to progress, and sometimes change is good, sometimes change is bad, but if you don't have that change, it's just stagnation, and you're kind of you're not gonna make any improvement. And honestly, given the situation with school age children and such, it's really the opposite. You're going to have a lot of harm coming from not changing at all. And I think really what I think of as character is really what the town currently is, defined just based off of that snapshot, to some extent with some history in mind. But I guess think about it like this, right? So if let's just say hypothetically, Old Tower Hill Road didn't exist, right? If you were to build that, just let's say it was Forest or something, and you build this strip mall area, you might reasonably say, oh, that's against the character of the town. The town is mostly single family homes and forest and green, and why are we putting a strip mall here? And I think that's totally valid. It's completely different than anything else that you see in the area, anything else that you see anywhere in town. And so calling it against the character seems valid. But now fast forward, because we have an old Tower Hill Road that's been built. It exists. So we can fast forward into the future of this hypothetical and say, what do people say about that same property in the future? And I'm hearing a lot of things, like when we did the whole charrette for the old Tower Hill Road redesign, like there were a lot of thoughts about like oh, it's ugly, like it's an eyesore, I hate it, it's not walkable, there's no shade, there's no like there's nothing, like it's bad. And I don't think I heard a single person say that this is against the character of the town, like it doesn't fit. Like I think it's because it has been there, because it is there, it has been there, people sort of get used to it. Like, you know, it's sort of a snapshot of the present with a little bit of the, you know, the recent history in the past, enough so that a critical mass of people have sort of accepted it for what it is.
But when they first built it, they were happy for it.
Maybe
Right?
well,
Hey,
yes.
there's a McDonald's. Oh my word, we got a McDonald's now.
Right.
Oh, we got a Burger King. Holy
Right.
smokes, we are moving forward.
Right. And maybe absolutely. Like I'm not saying
happy to
that.
see it.
Right. And I'm not saying like, you know, people don't need to react negatively to change, but I'm just saying if somebody didn't like it, it would be a valid criticism to say, oh, it's against the character. And
But they didn't say anything, they
and
just happy.
maybe didn't. Maybe they were just happy.
Glad to
Yeah,
see
but-
this development.
But
But-
there were towns
yeah.
that built McDonald's that
Mm.
had to look like the surrounding.
Oh,
areas.
absolutely.
Yeah.
True.
You
Just
go
mention
to-
the Cape.
Yeah, I
And
mean, you
in
could
Maine
go,
also.
Yeah, you could
Yeah.
go to towns
Yeah.
that really had the vision to say,
Right.
Yeah,
wait a minute, those buildings
Head.
are pretty ugly.
Hilton
We
Head.
can find a way to make them
Right,
not
right.
ugly, but
Yeah.
still be a McDonald's that everyone. Because clearly, when those buildings were built, everybody was happy to have them. It made shopping convenient, especially if you owned a car. If you didn't own a car, it's a pain in the neck.
Yes.
But you know, it was really built around a car mentality.
Yes.
Because I'm going to leave my nestled suburb
Yes.
house, and I'm going to drive there, and I'm going to buy whatever I want to buy at Staples and come back.
Yes.
I don't. But as things have evolved, A, people have recognized that it is ugly,
Yeah.
and B, they've recognized that that's not necessarily the best neighborhood way
Yeah.
to create a neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that's both a opportunity coming now with the old Tower Hill Road project to create mixed use and to potentially make it look more like you would like to think of this historic town could look like.
Yeah.
And so I agree. I mean, I think people bought into it in the 70s for a lot of reasons.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden they realized they had a blight on their hand once there
Yeah.
was 35 businesses there.
Fair. Yeah.
So I think it's part of the current leadership's responsibility to think 50 years ahead, not
Yeah.
just 5 years or 1 year when they
Right.
can build a big businesses and tax base. So I think defining some of those different neighborhoods and what we would like to encourage, not should, but what we would encourage people to make them, to build to look like,
Mm.
is forward thinking.
Yeah. And
In my opinion.
yeah, and I don't want to bury the lead either. Like I think what I sort of got back to and why I do the thought experiment with the old Tower Hill Road is oh, sorry, losing my train of thought for a second. Yeah, okay, so say what you just finished with there one more time, just jog my memory.
That I
The-
think that we have an opportunity at this point to talk about both the look and the
Yes.
mixed density use of that space.
Yes.
And that's just
Oh,
one
yeah.
example of where we could do that in a number of places.
Right, the forward thinking bit I think was the one that I was jumping onto, where it's like, yeah, like you got to think about what would this be in like 50 years, say,
Right.
and I think I sort of see it as like a two-part problem, where so like if you build something like, let's say hypothetically, like Old Tower Hill Road, like architecturally maybe it wasn't like exactly in keeping with the rest of the town, but it's like a space that people enjoy being in. Like it's define it however you want, right? Let's just take for granted that it is different than what's there before, but it is nonetheless a pleasant environment. It is a place that people enjoy being in. It's a place that people enjoy going to. I don't think you're going to have any of the negative comments. It's not going to be like, oh, well, this didn't have my preferred, architectural style. It's going to be like, this was a well-built, constructed neighborhood. I enjoy being there. I don't think, like, you could say there's a problem with the hypothetical. You could say it's impossible to feel that way if you don't have the right architecture. I don't agree. I think as long as it's well designed, like, you're going to end up with something that people in the future are happy with. And all the character argument sort of goes out the window when something's been there for enough time. Then it's not about character, it's just about, do we like it or do we not like it? Like, is there a way to improve it, or, you know, is it really in good shape already? Like those sorts of things. But with that said, there's like and why I think what you're saying about like needing to, or not needing to, but again, like trying to prioritize paying homage and like doing architecture that at least is nodding to what was there before, is you need to get to that point too. Like, and we run into this all the time where, you know, there's the worry of if you build some affordable housing project that is, you know, what people view as an eyesore, it's something that doesn't age particularly well, and then all of a sudden it's like the buy-in to build another one is not going to be there. And so, like, even if it's something that is, you know, reasonably well designed, I think you can definitely sort of ease the transition and ease that initial anxiety with making it something that is more visually similar to what's there. Like, I really do believe, like, long term, that's not important. As long as you make a well-designed thing, like, you'll be okay. I think within reason. Like, if you build a beautiful UFO, people might still be like, yeah, that's a little wacky, but, like, I mean, at least it's very functional UFO.
What you don't have there
But-
now is, you know,
Yeah.
it's not a neighborhood.
Yeah.
It lives there.
No, totally.
So
Yeah.
that's why
No,
it's
this is
really
just
not that
commercial.
big of a
Right.
issue with the community at large. At least the people go shopping there.
No, totally.
They don't care how.
Totally. But that's also another good point. This was one of the other things I had written down, is like, so like, take the hypothetical, right, of like, we want to house 300 people in the town, like 300 net new people, and we want to do it in such a way that minimizes the harm to the character of the town. Like, and of course, you know, money's a factor or whatever else, but like, I think the thought of, let's just like nestle in 300 single family homes, you know, in with the existing grid, like, that's sort of never going to happen. There's no land for that. Even if there were land for that, like, it's sort of like a lot of little like disruptions in lots of different parts of the town, and people are going to sort of feel that, like, to one way or another. And then take the other end of the hypothetical where you basically do a Fairgrounds Road, where you say we're going to drop 300 units all in one spot, and that one particular area might have, like, you know, especially for abutters, it might be like, oh, well, this, you know, it was a factory and now it's this huge residential thing, and there's all this different traffic patterns and like whatever else. But like, it's, for the rest of the town, it's sort of like business as usual. You don't feel it at all. Right. Yeah, no, exactly. And so I think if
Yes.
you're trying to sort of minimize the harm and minimize like what you were talking about, where it's like the feeling of like disorientation when your home is changing, like, in a lot of ways, having structures like that might be the best way to do it, kind of in a counterintuitive sort of way, even if that sort of structure isn't something that currently exists.
Well, I think there are places where that kind of structure is not going to particularly,
Would be more jarring. Yeah, I agree.
more places where it'd be more jarring and not very jarring. honestly.
Yeah.
In that case, so whatever gets built there, the people that live near it do certainly have an expectation that it should be quality, and it should
Yeah.
be, and it have a look that at least is not going to be really ugly,
Mm-hmm.
and that they're going to last, etc. So I think that is where it'd be helpful for them to sort of help define what that character might be.
Yeah.
So that when those units, and I don't know how much change there can be to the plan at this point, I don't know how far along it is with the developer, but so that when those things are put up, I mean, a mile away, there are great big dorm buildings. you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
is
yeah.
that the character of West Kingston? Is URI the character of West Kingston?
Right.
I'm not saying that it is,
Yeah.
but I do think you could create some buildings there that increase the density significantly, bring 300 units or 275, whatever it's going to be, but not be a really ugly scar. So an example of what should not have been done is what Chris Little's trying to do now with the Housing Authority and Champaign Heights. I mean, those were just not, that was not a good plan, particularly. Maybe all that could be afforded, maybe that's what people wanted, but those buildings had no character and were not particularly well made, and now we're paying the piper for that by trying to have to rebuild them all. And so they could have been designed, but again, probably didn't have the money, because all of this is somewhat costly. Character, quote unquote, it can be costly.
Yeah.
So they could have been designed to be more accommodating to people, like having washers and dryers and porches and things that would have made sense. And they could have fit the character of the neighborhood somewhat better and that is what Chris is trying to do now. They might not be able to afford to make it happen,
Mm.
but that's what we don't want to see happen in NORPAC. Is just block
Right.
crumbly made, set down.
Although if you like, let's take the hypothetical where they build the same thing and it doesn't have like, maybe it's not architecturally interesting, maybe it's like incredibly utilitarian and boring, but let's just say it's very well made, like something that you're not going to need to rebuild. You might want to rebuild because you think it's ugly, but you don't need to. Like it's structurally sound, it's well maintained, like all that. Like, how do you feel about it then? Because like for
I think there's something
Yeah.
to be said for the quality of people's lives when they live in something that's nice,
yeah,
that looks nice.
okay,
I don't know. To me,
Yeah.
we have sort of an obligation for that, but
mm.
my take on it. So,
Mm.
yes, they could have probably built something that looked like those buildings look now, that was much better constructed, and they would have lasted longer,
Mm.
and would it be less expensive to renovate or maintain,
Right, right.
etc. Which is what they would have been a noble goal to achieve.
Mm.
But it's still a case of building something fairly ugly for people to live in, and that's not nice. That's not.
Yeah.
I'm not keen about that either.
Yeah, no, I hear it.
I don't.
Yeah, you got
I like
thoughts?
the
Yeah.
Maine, or I think one of you guys said Maine, or does this, that
Mm.
kind of stuck with me. Like
Mm.
Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Stowe, I was there
Yeah.
a few months ago, but Stowe is like, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But it's also gorgeous because everything is, I don't want to say like unified, where it's like
Mhm.
utopia. No, I'm not saying that, but everything's built very similar.
Similar,
Mm.
yes.
You know what I mean? Where it's
See
like the
that?
grocery store looks like the post office from the outside.
Yes.
Mm.
Just
Yep.
I see
the
that.
gold lettering on the front
Yeah.
just says Stop and Shop instead of post office, right? But it's the same lettering.
Mm.
And it's not as complex a town as
No.
we are, and so
No.
and it's not as neighborhood based, but it still has really looked to try to make
That
each part of it
character.
have that look. and
Yeah,
character.
exactly. It's just kind of like
Right.
you can still kind of do that. So I do. I mean, I'm all up for modern and going, and I'm young and change and all that. But at the same time, I do think you should try and hold on to some of that architectural style because it does bring that community and it keeps people together. I think.
Yeah.
So.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm too utilitarian about it. I'm like, that would be great, but the fundamental problem is we have $0.
Well, that-
and we
I
have
mean-
No, exactly. There's like,
Like-
you gotta have to
We
like.
need to have
Stowe is a
places for
you have to
people
be
to live.
rational.
That's
you know,
sort of where
at some
I'm
point,
at.
like-
Yeah.
Is like, yeah, no, like
We need-
in an ideal world, like absolutely,
Yeah.
but I'm like, give me those Lego blocks, as long as we can meet the extreme need first, and we'll make them pretty later. It's not it's such a
I
problem.
think there could be
but-
some
yeah.
of both of that.
Yeah,
Again,
there-
I'm not saying
there is a
every building
balance.
has to look like a Hazard
Yes.
library,
Yes, yes.
which we can't afford.
Right,
But
right.
I mean, these plans potentially
Yeah.
are things that you could do
Totally.
without breaking
Nice.
the bank.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
I think we should be aware of that as we
Yeah.
as we consider,
Mm-hmm.
especially from our perspective as affordable housing. Yes, that is going to be one of those things where the extra thousands of dollars that it might cost to have certain touches are just not going to be available.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
unfortunate, but
yeah.
do
and-
the best we can to advocate for that, I think.
Yeah, and I 100% see it from the angle of like buy-in, because there are going to be a lot of people who have exactly the same thought, where it's like, this isn't something that people are going to feel comfortable, even in a we have no money, we have an extreme need environment. They're going to be like, well, like if this doesn't look like it makes sense here, like I'm not going to support it. And so like just taking that for granted, which I do at this point, it seems like that's like a pretty commonly expressed thought, doing a little bit of give there, saying like, at the very least, try to keep costs down, but try as well to make it a little bit more, blend a little better, a little bit more visually cohesive, and certainly well built. Like I acknowledge there's a little bit of a give you have to do, because otherwise the pushback is just going to grow and grow and grow to anything else you try to do, because it's just going to be, you're going to build another eyesore like X, and yeah, no, we don't want to be in that position.
Yeah, and
for
I am
sure.
worried about that for the NORPAC buildings. I mean, they could end up being not poorly made and not look good and not fit any. Again, the character there is hard to really say.
Yeah, the
But-
character of the parking lot that was there.
Yeah,
but
yeah, and the industrial buildings across the street.
right.
But that said, the people who live there do deserve something that doesn't look too abrasive and ugly.
True.
When they drive by and when
True.
they're looking at it from their porch. And so
Yep.
anyway,
Yeah. No, but I think it's like my biggest takeaway from everything that everyone said so far is like I love the idea of asking people what they mean when they say it's against the character, you know, because some of these things are so workable. Like we've heard like a lot from this table about architecture, and like architecture, there's a lot of little things. Like sure, like take stylistic cues from what's nearby. Like do your best to not exceed the height of nearby buildings or whatever else. Like you can try to sort of massage it that way. But if the concern is really just like character equals one family per 2 acres or something like that,
No.
then it's like there are certain and I do think there's a lot of worry about like just too many people. Like if people feel like
Absolutely.
I have like a pastoral kind of feel, and like it's just not going to feel the same if you like, even if it's a beautiful building, like if you have just like more people around, and I'm not saying like there's a right or wrong answer. I just think it's useful to understand, because some of those things you can really speak to and really do your best to sort of meet people where they are, and then there are other things where it's like it's fundamentally incompatible. Like either you are able to build more housing there, or you say I don't feel good about this. Like it's or I guess well you those together, or you don't build it and people do feel good. Like those are it's kind of tough. I'm guessing people aren't all like, it's not just one thing. Like you can probably always go a little bit towards, but if the primary concern is just just the amount of people, and I know a lot of people are scared of the word density, but like if that's the primary concern, then it's a little tougher to get around. Like you can disguise it, but if the worry is just how not visually, just like functionally the people, then it's tough.
I mean, that was at some point a booming industrial complex.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, it was Schneider Electric. I did work in that building.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for like 2 years. So I mean,
There's always shifts, right?
there's always
Yeah,
people coming in and out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it was always a busy road ever since I grew
Yeah.
up. You know what I mean? For at least 25 years. So
Mm-hmm.
as far as density,
Yeah.
yes, there's going to be a density increase, but can it handle it? I think so.
Yeah.
I think so with what it has handled in the past. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah, for that property in particular, completely agree.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
And it's
Yeah.
not like they're working in shifts at the rental.
Right.
So they're not all leaving at the same time.
Right.
Yeah, you're gonna have
Right.
a flux in the morning, of course, right? People leave for work,
Mhm.
and in the afternoon you might get some rush hour, but
Yeah, the argument was more cars, but I would think there were many more cars when the
There's a shift.
buildings were,
it was a parking lot.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it was all cars.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like,
yeah. They all came to
at one
Lansing.
point, yeah.
Several times.
At the same
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting too if you apply like similar thoughts to Old Tower Hill Road, where like it's kind of similar in that it's currently, at least many people view it as a bit of an eyesore. It's something that like I think a lot of people would want something to change at, but it's like if your worry is like, oh no, there are now going to be a ton of people, it's going to be so busy, there are going to be cars, blah blah blah. Like even if it currently has a bunch of cars, just because it's all these like car-centric businesses that people are zooming in and out of,
Absolutely.
like even if that's not the main concern, like there's going to be some level of worry there, and I think some of it is just like it's just worry, and then when you see how it actually works, it'll kind of be fine. But I do think some people, especially maybe not in that part of town, but in some parts of town, it's a little bit more like I came here for like getting away from people, and now all of a sudden it's people everywhere. So I don't want to anchor this in one property, because I don't think it really necessarily is perfect for any of the ones we've talked about. But I'm just trying to like get at some of the perspectives I've heard people express. And
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's interesting to see some of the places where developments have kind of sprung up over the past 10 or 15 years that are sort of pushing out into some of the more blue-collar,
Yeah.
rural areas. And I don't know that anyone ever really talks about the character of those, because they are developed by fairly affluent developers.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they have they look nice, whether it fits any particular, and they also kind of, many of them look relatively similar.
yeah,
So that we accept, but that's interesting to say. Okay, what should we be saying about those developments as well? Do we have any sense of what character that is? They do take on sort of a single home, large, big lawn.
yeah.
And I guess that we're okay with that, and that's
And you make a good point. Like, do you like? I'm not sure what the public, what the people were saying at the times where they're putting those up, because I remember specifically for Old Tower Hill, or not Old Tower Hill Road, Fairgrounds Road, where people are talking about like, oh, they're going to drop an apartment in the middle of this beautiful, like, this farmland. Like, I came here because it felt like almost rural, and now we have this apartment building. And if it would be very interesting if, for these projects where it's like kind of similar, it was a field, it was very much
Oh, yeah.
farmland, and
Yeah.
now as a neighborhood, if you would have
To South County Hills, it was a
Yeah.
gravel bank, and it
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
my husband
Yeah.
used to drive cars in the gravel bank, and then all of a sudden this
Yep.
neighborhood
Yeah.
developed, and it's beautiful. I mean, the homes are lovely, and
Yeah.
lots of people moved in, and
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot of, but I mean, that was huge.
Yeah, like what I'm
That
trying
point in
to,
time.
like, and that's like what I'm trying to tease out is like, the people are gonna they say a lot of different things, and I think some of it is like legitimate, like they've thought about it very thoroughly, and like they're saying exactly what they mean, and I think some of it is people just know that they don't want that. They don't know necessarily what about it is the worst part. They're just like, what I see there, I do not like. And I'm just going to latch onto all the arguments that I maybe agree with more or less, but like generally agree with for get that thing out of here.
Yeah.
And so if there wasn't so much of that with these sorts of, neighborhoods,
Yeah.
it makes me wonder, like, maybe the architecture, maybe like just generally looking like a nicer place is more important to nearby than specifically what was there before. Like, I don't know. I'm just like, but if that's your perception of like what the impression was of neighborhoods like that, then
It was.
yeah.
I heard another story about South County Commons, that they used to
Yeah.
have horse, I don't know, shows or something.
Oh, really? Horse
Oh,
shows?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then look, they put in all those houses, and yeah, that's called,
Yeah.
Like
development.
its own little village over there, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the different pieces, what's in there, I think is, it to me, was a good thing for Wakefield,
Yeah.
that little strip with the stores and the restaurants, but still you have housing
And
and,
even the development
Residential there too.
behind
Yeah,
like
residential
Cockeye,
and-
Oh, yeah. The
that
private
whole
one, yeah.
development in there, there's 3 streets of
Mhm.
condos.
yeah.
Yep.
You know, 2 units, 3 units, single units,
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of stuff. It's
Yeah.
a gated community.
Mhm.
It's beautiful in there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it's making me wonder, like, so like if something like this is generally acceptable, something like the apartment building scares everybody nearby, like
Because-
maybe not the rest of the town, but like they scare everybody nearby.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm wondering, like, what's the biggest sticking point here? Like, is it more the worry? Like, because I know there's some level of like worry and stigma just with anything that's labeled an affordable housing project, where people are just like, oh no, it's gonna, like, bring the wrong sorts of people. It's gonna bring
Exactly.
crime. It's
Because
gonna
they don't
like,
understand what it is.
yes, and I like, is that the biggest piece, or is it, is a similarly big, maybe almost as big piece, just the form of it all? And I really don't know the answer.
Yeah. I mean, there is an ecological argument to be made, and they certainly need to be careful about that, because it is relatively close to swampland.
Yep.
And
Yep.
although I'm not so sure there would be a reptilian massacre that would happen, I do think that,
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
wildlife was a concern.
yes, I do think that's something that needs to be considered.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
ecological issues. But I guess my question would be, if NORPAC didn't exist and that whole thing was torn down, people would not be building $1.2 million mansions across the street from Arnold's Lumber.
I would doubt it.
That isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it's true that the people who live there, right next door, could argue that there would be buildings similar to theirs that would be built there, $400,000
Yeah.
prefab, whatever. That is a logical argument for them to make, but I just don't think that that's really going to happen. And so we have an opportunity to put up.
We have an opportunity that somebody's going to develop it.
Yeah. But it's just a matter now of making sure that they do it the right way,
Yeah.
from my perspective. But,
Yeah.
I mean, there are certainly places that you wouldn't want to put that there, but I think in an almost industrial type zone,
Yeah.
apartment buildings are illogical.
Which is Peacedale.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You've got housing
Mhm.
that surrounds the
Yeah.
local industry.
Yeah.
People didn't have cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Walk to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's a little bit of New England tradition right there.
Yep.
Surrounding
Absolutely.
the whole mill.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think going forward, I'm gonna do my best to sort of tease out like, you know, what they really mean when they're talking about character. Because yeah, we hear that word all the time,
Yes.
and yeah, and digging a little bit more into it, I think would be helpful to try to like, you know, see how we can message and see how we can, you know, advocate for, you know, best threading that needle between building what we need and trying to make it acceptable to people.
So Josh,
Yeah.
are you wrapping up?
Yeah.
Can
yeah.
I offer a slightly different perspective?
Oh,
Please
okay.
do. Yes.
So, it's kind of where I thought the conversation would go, because it's typically where the conversation goes, which
Mhm.
is to character as identified through structural
Mm.
elements of the town.
Yeah.
And the idea that anything new is hard because change is hard.
Mm.
But the problem is that, you know, change is a universal constant.
Yes.
It's gonna happen,
Yeah.
and if you try to stop one kind of change, another kind of change
Yes.
is going to be the response.
Right.
If you try to stop the structural change, what's the response? And
Right.
in my mind, what responds is social change.
Yeah.
So if you drop a bubble over the built environment in South Kingstown and say nothing shall change,
Right.
what's gonna happen under that bubble? The population is going to continue to get older and wealthier with fewer children. The school's population will continue to decline to the point where schools won't be able to provide the kinds of education that an educated populace demands. So those are all things that we are currently seeing. The community is aging, it's getting older, it's getting whiter, it's getting wealthier. And they're building a high school now for 800 students, down from, I think, the existing building was 15 or 1,600 students.
So they've doubled the
And
population.
I've heard people saying that 800 is going to be too big.
Yeah. Yeah.
I heard that.
So my response to people is, well, why did you move to South Kingstown? I guess in part it was because of the visual aesthetic, but wasn't part of it also the community and social aesthetic?
Absolutely,
Totally.
absolutely.
And if we don't adapt to what we're doing, that part of the community character is going to disappear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just wanted to
Yeah,
lay
that's a
that
good
out
point.
to maybe
Yeah.
That's a good point.
get people looking at more different things other than just buildings.
Yeah. I like framing it as a choice because it really is. Like, you know, the do nothing choice is not nothing. The status quo is not working
Yeah.
for all the reasons stated. So,
Right.
um,
Right.
yeah, I think I think the trouble is that I don't think people reject that idea that like there's a choice to be made. I think people reject making any personal sacrifice to have a collective benefit, you know? Like I would love to have a town that works the way it did before with all the school kids and the families, but I don't want to have this monstrosity next door. And I know it doesn't always have to be monstrosity. We've talked about that. There's the visual aesthetic thing too that we can try to massage, but yeah, that's where it's sort of a tough problem. It feels like you really need to like sort of like, you know, sweeten the image as much as you possibly can, because if you can't get people to sort of take the medicine, then they're not going to like the alternative either. It's tough. Yeah.
Well, I think there does need to be a base to support what people consider to be special about this town. So,
Yeah.
you know, even things like the guild. You know, you can't run a guild unless you have a town that can afford to run a guild.
Right.
You can't have a nice library. You can't have nice schools. You know, all of those things are dependent on a town of a certain size, I think,
Right.
and of certain needs. And so, I think that's an argument to say, changing, you know, to Brian's point, change is inevitable. So how do we massage that change in a way that people are comfortable with? And that's always a series of choices. I agree with
Yeah.
that. That's not easy.
Yeah, and I'll point something out. You know, we are currently advertising for a new principal planner job. This is a $85,000-$90,000 a year job. We're not getting any applicants.
No applicants.
Wow.
Interesting.
Wow.
And I think part of that is because people don't want to do the commute to take the job, and they can't afford to move
To live here.
closer.
That's enough not enough money to.
That's a problem the hospital has,
Yeah.
especially for the low-paying jobs.
Yeah.
They had
Not
this constant
necessarily
turnover.
low-paying jobs. I mean, entry level for a nurse is probably the same salary range.
Should be.
You can't afford to live here on a nurse's salary.
All right.
Moving right along.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's not necessarily the AHCC's job to come up with the town character, I suppose.
Right,
But
right.
it was an interesting discussion, and we should certainly keep it in mind as we advocate
And the-
for
Right.
service.
So, I mean,
Right.
the whole idea of throwing that discussion out is to
Yeah.
have the discussion now.
Yeah.
Because it seems to be an issue that comes up every
Always.
time there's a
Right.
development project.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
And having this discussion now and thinking about it means you're ready to respond to it when that discussion
Right.
comes up at a meeting.
Right.
So.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that was brought up when the Commons first was proposed to the town, and the town was against it.
Yeah.
We don't want the
Commons.
Commons. Oh, that is way too much development for our little town. We can't cope with that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But look how it turned out.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well,
Nice.
the interesting, I mean, the nice thing about the Commons
Mm.
was it did blend business with community.
Yes, it did.
So
It did.
in theory, people, I mean, they can't walk to a full gross, well, they can bike to a grocery store.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A couple
no.
days.
Well, now they have the bike that goes in the
The
back.
bike path.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So
By the
that,
way.
to me, was at least, you know, a concept that was fairly farsighted and could
Yep.
be developed well. And it's not, you know, they're not ugly buildings,
Yeah.
No, I mean,
so good for them.
It took many years, though. It took many years.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
To get it
Yeah.
approved.
Yeah.
That was one
Yeah,
of
it
my
was
first
a
places I went.
10-year process
Yeah.
at least
Yeah.
to get the approvals on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, well,
I think it was a good mix of business, but also like a little bit of social too, because I
Oh,
did
absolutely.
I lived there for a couple of years.
Oh, awesome.
I've been around, so, you know. But it's just a nice, like, they had a gym there, right? They have a coffee shop.
Yeah.
They have
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
restaurants.
Movie theater.
Yeah.
Right, and then all the second floor stuff was like some health things. You know, they had, I didn't
Good
even know they had a
restaurants.
rehab place in there for
Oh,
like,
wow.
you
Yeah.
know, 2.5 years that I lived there.
Wow.
I found that out later, right? They have all sorts of things, insurance and stuff.
Yeah. That's
You know, but it was just kind
I
of
like
a great
it.
mix.
Mhm.
And it was nice. You could bomb around, walk around, get something to eat.
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and also go for a walk, you know, to the local park or whatever. So it was
Yeah.
still a nice little place for sure.
Yeah.
I think it blended in pretty well.
Mm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
all right.
Awesome. I think we should probably slide forward. We're at
Yeah.
8:30. So yeah, okay. So the Old Tower Hill Road neighborhood plan. So the first thing I want to make sure we do. So this was going to be. I think this was the one that was originally going to be on the night of the blizzard,
Yes.
basically, or a couple days
Yes.
after the blizzard, and they
Yes.
had to cancel that meeting
Yeah.
because the consultants weren't able to get up in time, and so. I know originally we had sort of talked about strategy for making some sort of a comment on the record. The idea being it might be best for somebody other than me to say something because they're going to view it as, you know, this student who is not going to be here long term. As I've just confessed, I will very likely not be here for too much longer. You know, it's not as easy to take me seriously about the long-term direction of something like Old Tower Hill Road. So it would be great to have somebody else, you know, speak on behalf. And I know that you were going to do it,
That was
Peter,
gonna
but
be me, but I'll
yeah,
let you
but now
do it, so-
exactly.
Sorry.
So
Yeah, shoot.
if one of the three of you guys would be, able to make those comments, then that would be awesome. I think, we've talked a bit about our thoughts on it in past meetings, so you could look at, at minutes, etc. And we also have I think at least one draft letter that
Yeah.
I could find, or not draft letter, sent letter,
Yeah.
that I could find and share if that would be helpful for, just context.
I think the main talking points are in the letter, and just
Yeah.
reiterating them would
Yep.
be
I'd be happy to.
Awesome.
the
Yeah.
most important thing. And I think just saying that this was from the entire affordable housing collaboration, and we feel like it's,
Yes.
yeah, so I,
Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it is, the importance is an optic, because if we have a meeting where the only people that stand up and say anything are people that stand up and oppose it, it leaves a bad impression with the council who
Yeah.
are being asked to vote on something.
Yeah.
So it's important to have other people stand up and say, hey, we do support this.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to.
And I'll make sure I
Give me the words.
recirculate the letter.
Yeah.
No
Okay.
worries.
Thank you.
And you can use that as your basis.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I say this not knowing whether or not there's going to be a public comment period on the
Yes.
9th.
Right.
All right, so the meeting is scheduled from 7 to 9.
Yeah.
Obviously, the council can decide to go over that time
Yeah.
if they like. How much time the presentation takes up, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a question of how actively engaged the council is with the consultants while they're there.
Yeah.
I do hope that there is time for the public to weigh in, including those who might be opposed to it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
right now, that's one property owner who's making a very big stink with lawyers and everything.
Also, a friend of mine who worked on the project when he was at URI, I'm trying to get him to come and speak for it.
Awesome.
Okay, there were a couple of URI projects that looked
Well, this,
at this
yeah,
area.
yeah.
I
He was
worked on
in the
one of them.
land, he was landscape architect
Landscape
was his,
architecture,
yeah,
yeah.
was his thing, and he worked on this and keeps saying, what's the problem?
Yeah.
Why aren't they just doing it? So,
and my impression was that the EOC is gonna comment as well.
The EDC?
EDC,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
they've offered, and I'll provide you their letter as well if I haven't already done that.
Yeah, I think I saw it.
Yeah, I tried to get you guys to sort of stay in your wheelhouses
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
have you focus on housing and them focus
Yeah.
on economics, but there is an overlap
absolutely.
between those two.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I'd be happy to do
great,
it.
thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
I will probably still be there, but I just.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I think you carry more legitimacy than me for speaking to this, so I appreciate that. Yeah, and I think with this as well, I wanted to ask. So, I know you had mentioned, like, I want to say back in January about one of the town council members in particular, like certain misgivings that they had expressed, and Amy in response was like, "Oh, I'll reach out and contact." Like, are there any other things that have come up that you think we should be, proactively addressing?
I don't know that Amy ever made contact.
Yeah, I don't. Like, we haven't had a meeting. I don't know.
Councilwoman Alley.
Yeah.
It was Ally.
We did meet with Councilwoman Alley and show her some architectural renderings that she seemed to like very much.
Mm.
So it'll be interesting to see where she's at on April 9th.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay.
Gotcha.
I'll make you proud.
I'm sure you will.
You have credibility.
Oh, well, yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. Okay, any other thoughts on that? I think like the only other thing I'd say is like again, we don't know if there's going to be comment, but I
Yeah,
love the
right,
idea
right.
that you already had a friend in mind with
Well, he
like who
wa-
has worked on
'cause
this.
I know he worked on it, and he was.
Yeah.
And
He would-
actually, he's a South Kingston resident now.
Awesome.
If he's still
Yeah.
around, he would be great to have come in and.
Yeah, say a few words.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he actually lives in Long Island, but he owns a little house over by Narrow River. He's a South Kingstown resident,
Mm.
or has a home in South Kingston.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I guess you should advertise as well that we have a spot on the committee open.
Yeah, but he'd be a big commute. He's not always here.
Oh, I
But-
see. I see.
And I think
Tune
it was,
in via Zoom. Right?
Yeah.
His senior year, he's a president of the student body, so he has a
Wow.
lot of creds. So
Absolutely. No, that's awesome. And I think like similarly, I don't know if anybody else has like a star witness like that, but
Yeah.
by all means, like spread the
Yeah.
word about this. I'm gonna at least see if I can get a couple of friends to show up with me. We'll like even just to show up and support. Like even if we're not saying anything, so we'll see how it goes. But hopefully we can get a good result from this.
and will there be a vote? No.
No, there won't be a vote, because, well, it's not on the agenda. It's just on the agenda for a presentation. And in order for there to be a vote, the first thing they have to do is, there's a process that they have to issue through the clerk for an order of notice for advertising.
Okay.
Because ultimately, this is a big ordinance change.
Yeah.
So there's a order of notice, then there's a specified period for advertising, then there will be public hearings, and then a vote.
Okay. Nothing's that easy.
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts on the form-based code, or should we slide along?
Slide along.
Slide along. All right. We have apparently no old business with all of our recent meetings, so I think we can go on to G, which is staff update. So I guess we're changing the May meeting.
Yeah, so because your meeting was scheduled for the fourth Thursday of May 28th, Monday of that week is Memorial Day, which would have been a council meeting, which means the council is kicked to Tuesday, which would have been a planning board meeting, which means the planning
Wow.
board is now kicked to Thursday the 28th.
Classic.
So,
Memorial Day's that early? Wow.
Yeah, it is.
so you guys are gonna need a new date in May. The Historic District Commission, right before you, was okay with moving their meeting, up a day to the 27th. If that works for everybody,
So that's Wednesday.
Yeah, that works for me.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, as long as, so we have a 7 o'clock start time, you think, Brian?
Yeah.
That'd be good. Okay.
May 27th, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
okay.
May 27th.
All right. Do we need to move for this or?
No.
Okay. All good. Cool.
So Memorial Day's what? 25th?
Or, yeah, 27, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Saying
you're looking at for
Day.
Memorial Day.
Memorial
Oh,
Day.
yes.
I'm planning my summer.
Yes.
Is that as early as it can be?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, it feels very early.
It could still be cold.
Yeah. I hope not.
I'm tired of cold.
Yeah, it's long winter.
Ugh,
Can't say I'm
Um,
thinking about gardening yet. I don't know.
my yard is awful. Looks like,
Oh man.
oh, the trees, the limbs, the sticks. It's crazy.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, so that's.
Yeah, so that was the first item. Let's go to number 2, which is an update on the surplus properties. Yeah.
So not a lot to update. Other than, I think the best update I have is that it appears that there's going to be some money available to help us work out South Road in terms of utility connections.
Okay.
which would be huge.
Yeah.
Because even if we can just provide the engineering for the sewer connection, you're talking, you know, almost $1 million worth of work. And if we're lucky, there's a potential that there might be enough money there to actually pay for the work itself. Which makes the viability of a much higher percentage of deed restricted affordables viable in that location. So
Where is that money coming from, or is it potentially, or don't, if you don't have to, if it's too early to say, that's
yeah,
fine.
It's too early to say.
Yeah.
Other than to say, I believe it was a state source, and that we were actively encouraged to apply for the money. I mean, there are people that are aware of this project, Governor McKee, the Secretary of Housing and whatnot, that are all very supportive of it, because they're aware that these kinds of projects are not happening in the southern
Right,
end of the state.
right.
And I think they understand that this is an opportunity for something to happen that might not otherwise happen. So there is some genuine support, particularly for South Road, to try and get something done.
Great,
That's great.
So that's the only real update I have.
okay.
And number 3, I think everybody's aware at this point that Fairgrounds Road received master plan approval at 275 units.
Yep.
With 30% affordable instead of the state required 25%. And half of the affordable units will be a 30-year deed restriction, which is the minimum required by the state, and half of them will be a 40-year
Yeah.
deed restriction. So we've got a bump up in overall percentage of affordable units and the duration of half of those affordable units. So it was a pretty good
Yeah.
deal, I think.
Yeah, nice. Yep.
Yes.
And
Good news.
the preliminary designs, because they dropped quite a few units down to 275, is it appears that what they will be doing is eliminating a building.
Okay.
So what's and the tallest building was designed to be
4 stories.
3-story, 4 stories. So rather than lower a story, they're gonna eliminate a building.
It's
Yeah.
sort of interesting. So they originally had 6 buildings, right? So this
Yeah.
would be 5, but it's a drop in, you know, like 45 out of, you know, it's like an eighth of the units, but they're dropping a full building. Like, are they gonna have to add a floor in one of the other ones?
So
Or-
there were some buildings that were smaller than
Oh,
others.
right, they were different sizes.
yeah.
They're dropping a building, but it's not one of the bigger
Oh,
buildings.
they're dropping a smaller
Smaller
building.
building.
I see.
And the nice thing is I've seen a couple of preliminary designs, and by dropping a building, you
Mhm.
actually create a nice
Buffer.
a nice big hunk of usable recreational
Oh, cool.
space.
Oh, some green space and
Green.
recreational space, yeah. Well, and it would be great to be able to make that accessible to, other people. I don't know how that's, rather than just the people that live there. If there's a way to be able to
I
say,
don't think that's realistic.
Yeah.
It's still a private piece
Yeah.
of property,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
can demand that. of,
yeah, no,
a
I
local
get it.
subdivision that
Yeah.
decided to create some
Yeah.
open space.
Yeah.
So
No, I understand that, but it's too bad.
Yeah.
Green space was something I think we talked about.
Mhm.
Though.
It was in the design, yeah.
For sure.
Mhm.
What we saw, yeah.
Yeah.
They need more.
Yeah.
To do things. So it's
But
like,
even
and
if
they
they
were like,
could-
well, we can put this field over here. And we're like, what? Isn't that the overflow parking lot? If that business gets like,
Yeah.
well, they're like, well, if it doesn't, and then I was like, well, so, like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, no, and I definitely heard that like from people in the public too, like bringing that up.
Yeah.
So,
That's good then. It's
Yeah.
good to hear.
no, very much. Yeah, it seems like a good solution, honestly. Yeah, okay. I think that's all we had on this. So the the only other thing would be if there are any new discussion issues or future agenda items that people wanted to go through. I don't think I have anything else myself.
I think we got several things on our plate that are.
Sue, did you have something?
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
wanted to talk about Habitat. They got approved, right? You can check me on that. I think for 3 units in the new development. What's the development called? Is that? It's not Broad Rock. It's what?
Oh, Broad Rock?
Yeah, Broad
Acres?
Rock Acres.
Yes.
Hmm.
They're going
Yeah,
to
there are
have
3
three
affordable units.
affordable units. It's been approved, so
Awesome.
they're going to start, I think, even taking applications. I mean, it's gonna happen that
So Habitat will build those units,
have
and then the developer will build.
The rest.
yes, yes.
Oh, interesting. All right.
And, that's always
By
a
little.
win
Yeah.
because, it just adds to the number of affordables. They
Yeah, yeah,
know
yeah.
how to do it. Nobody
Yes.
does it better than them.
Yes.
Yeah.
They've been talking to Narragansett forever, and they can never get it off the ground. So I think that's a huge win, because they're Charlestown. They're buying land in Charlestown. So you talk about people not understanding what affordable is versus low income. They've had this property in Westerly for years, but it's in a suit because the neighbors are saying, not in my neighborhood, because they don't understand these are people with jobs and pay mortgages and,
Yeah, they would
have to
commit
get
to that house.
approved. Yes, they have to go through a rigorous process to be able to,
That's crazy.
anyway. But I thought that was great to add to the number. Those
Yeah,
are,
little by little.
Yeah, we've been trying to get Habitat
Yeah, they
involved,
really
and the sticking point has always been that with these affordable units, there's a development schedule.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
They can only build so many market rate units before they have to build an affordable unit.
yeah.
And it's been difficult to work with Habitat to say, okay, when they build their first 5, you have to be ready to build.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what, they're doing some modular now, so that's gonna move. That's a brand new thing for the South County.
Yeah.
Habitat.
No, that's great that they've finally been able to make that focus.
Yeah, yeah. So I thought that was worth bringing
Yeah.
up.
No, thank you. And I completely forgot that you emailed about that, so thank you for
Yeah.
remembering. That's,
Broad Rock
that's
Village,
awesome.
and I don't, where is it on Broad Rock? I have to go find it.
Check it out.
Yeah,
It's north of
So-
Saugatucket Road.
oh, okay, the other side.
If you're going
Yeah.
Okay,
north, it's on the left.
okay, all right.
Gotcha.
And it's not too far up. If you get to Indian
Right,
Run Village,
that's
you've gone too far.
Okay. So, after Saugatucket.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Anybody else with some lovely closing wins? I'd love one more of those.
I have one, unfortunately.
All good, all
Can't
good.
beat that.
Yeah.
Every little bit counts.
Yes. No, very much. Okay, well, I think at that point this will be like the first meeting in the history where we're 9 minutes early. But if we get a motion to adjourn, we can do that. We can make it a reality.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Any
Second.
second? Awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No one's going to
Great.
sit around and say, let's talk for another half hour. Just for
I know, right? I have more thoughts on the character.
Speaking of characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Thanks for bringing that up. Honestly,
That was, yeah,
I
good
think
perspective.
that was.
I think we all had
Character,
good
character,
perspective.
character.
Well, that was frustrating
Different
at that
perspective.
meeting
I
when
was-
they were